So we talked about the NFL Combine being an absolute joke. We talked about in the NBA who we already kind of saw it coming, but over the last week it's really coming to fruition about the Pelicans making the playoffs and the Grizzlies kind of falling down. The inevitable fall down of the young team. Now we talk about the MLB, Major League Baseball, one of the most active off seasons, if you will, of Major League Baseball. To really, in my mind, in recent history, I have not seen so much coverage of baseball throughout the winter. And obviously, it's because of the Houston Astros, who, by the way, have already been hit by 8 pitches in 2 or 3 spring training games. A couple of them did look incidental. I think every single pitcher, by the way, has done a great job of making it look incidental. But there's no way you get hit by 8 baseballs in 2 games. It's not. It's going to be bad. This is going to be bad, right? And we all see it coming, right? Like, Rob Manfred did not do enough. Ooh, I gave a billionaire owner a $5 million fine. Oh, but I made them fire their GM and their head coach, which, by the way, according to the reports, had absolutely nothing to do with it. They had the least amount to do with it. Those 2 guys that they fired had the least amount to do with the scandal than anyone else in that franchise. The players have to be punished. That's all there is to it. They're going to be punished physically by baseballs coming out of them at 95 mile per hour to their head, or they're going to be what is it? Suspended by the commissioner. Either way, whether they like it or not, the players are going to be punished either physically or by the commissioner's office. It's up to the commissioner at this point. But outside of that, I want to talk about who we're seeing in the World Series. Who I think we'll see in the AL and NL championship games. Now, yesterday, and I can even go back and post the old podcast. I made some podcasts, as you all know. I got sick, and I really couldn't get through the podcast session. I was feeling too bad. And I had the Yankees going to the AL championship and perhaps even the World Series. But with the news that broke last night, if you haven't heard, Luis Severino has to undergo Tommy John surgery and is likely out for the season. Now, that's 2 hits already to their starting rotation. John Happ and Luis Severino are both out for the season. Now, the Yankees have a ton of pitchers that can throw in the rotation that are all really good. So I'm sure they'll be okay. But to lose Luis Severino's got to be a hurt. It's got to be a big hurt for them. Likely the number 2 starter behind Garrett Cole. And already losing CC Sabathia as well to retirement. The Yankees are looking pretty vulnerable at this moment. I'm excited to see how they start for the regular season. But right now, the Yankees are looking extremely vulnerable. When I look out west, I see the LA Dodgers. A lot of people's favorites, and as they should be, to get back to the World Series. But I want to say not so fast. And here's why. We know the Dodgers have an absolutely potent offensive lineup that features Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, their rookie backstop last year. The guy out of Louisville, I can't think of his name at the moment, but even he popped off last year. They have an absolutely potent offensive lineup. Justin Turner at third base. Their defense looks pretty solid as well. Their outfield is really secure with Cody Bellinger and Mookie Betts now. Max Muncy on the other side. Their infield with Corey Seager, Justin Turner. Their backstop is really solid as well. So you're probably thinking, well, George, where's their hole at? You know, what's keeping you from really being sold on the LA Dodgers. And it's something I thought I would never say about the LA Dodgers. It's their pitching. Have we not paid attention to what the Dodgers did this offseason? They let go of their number one postseason starter last year, Hyunjin Ryu. It wasn't Clayton Kershaw. Go back and look. The guy that started the first playoff game for the LA Dodgers was Ryu. It was not Kershaw. The Dodgers know that Ryu was actually their ace. But in order to protect Clayton Kershaw's ego, and to be fair, the man has deserved an ego. I mean, he's earned it. I mean, he's Clayton Kershaw. They kept starting him in the regular season, but they said when they got to the postseason they were making some changes. The number one change was Ryu going to the ace position. He's now a Minnesota Twin. So you lose him. They lost Rich Hill. But what do they do to answer that? They bring in a guy they traded to the Reds 2 seasons ago. They traded Alex Wood to the Reds. All he did was end up with a 5.4 ERA with the Reds. Oh, let's bring him back in. Let's give him another chance. Guys, he's going to be their number 4 starter. As a 5.4 ERA. Likely playing in the postseason, he'll play probably a bullpen row, the stretch bullpen row. It's like, for instance, if a starting pitcher goes down early in a game, he'll come in and kind of extend the game to the bullpen. Their bullpen is not as strong as what it was. Their closer, the last 2 seasons, has not been who he was when he first got called up. He can't throw as fast as what he did. I'm not sure what really happened, but he can't throw as hard. There's not as much deceptiveness to it. And with all their last 3 postseason runs, now obviously they're a little bit tainted by the Houston Astros. You have to take that into account. But their starting pitcher rotation has been abysmal the last 3 postseasons. And it's not even close. So to me, if you ask me, while I'm not completely 100% sold on the Dodgers, just look at the last 5 years. The starting pitching was the reason they've been held out of the World Series, or they haven't done well in the World Series in the last 5 seasons. And it went out and got worse this offseason. So, of course, I'm not going to have as much faith in them now. Looking back on it, obviously hindsight is 2020. You kind of see the Houston Astros effect on that. I mean, there's a video that came out on Twitter the other day that showed Clayton Kershaw throwing 50 curveballs and off-speed pitches and not getting one swing and miss on it. He got 0 swings on his off-speed, which is probably the most horrific example of the Houston Astros scandal. That right there shows how strong their scandal was. For Clayton Kershaw, probably one of the most historical off-speed throwers that we've ever seen in Major League Baseball, not getting one swing and miss on his off-speed stuff, which, by the way, if you go look back and look at the film, was pretty on point that game. There were a couple of wild pitches, but with Clayton Kershaw, every game has a couple of wild pitches. I mean, when you throw in that much of a sidearm and you're coming at that much velocity, you're going to have a couple of just wild pitches. But for the most part, his stuff was on. And he did not get one swing and miss. So, looking back at it, hindsight 2020, you can see where maybe their rotation wasn't as bad as it could. Or let me put it this way: their rotation was probably better than advertised, but getting to the World Series when you're facing cheaters is kind of hard to be good. So, who is the team I believe in the most? This has been hard because I've been trying really hard the last 2 seasons and the last 2 years of my sports life to not be biased. I've been trying really hard to endorse other teams, to look at things through a different perspective rather than blaming the refs or rather than blaming something that a team could control. I've been trying to be less biased as a sports analyst, as a fan. And I promise you 100% I'm not biased when I say that the Cincinnati Reds are probably one of the best teams in baseball right now. There is one question about them, though, and one question alone. It's their defense. We'll see how this team plays defense as the season starts and as the season progresses. The biggest question I had was their shortstop position. Would the Reds put Nick Senzel at shortstop? Would they call up one of the minor leaguers who have a lot of potential, in Jose Garcia, for example? Will they throw Freddie Galvis, an experienced veteran that we traded for last season, at shortstop? The answer is, I have no idea what they're going to do. But I do know this. A team with options is scary. What do I mean by that? The Reds are deep. What deep teams have made it very deep in the playoffs the last few seasons? Number 1 comes to mind, the New York Yankees. Number 2 comes to mind, while they did cheat, the Houston Astros. Number 3 comes to mind, the LA Dodgers, the Boston Red Sox. The list goes on. Deep teams make deep runs. The Reds are a deep team. I don't know where Nick Senzel fits in on this team. I can't find a spot. And that's a scary thing. Their outfield, absolutely loaded. Nick Castellanos, which has proven to be, when he's on a good team and motivated, he plays really well. And I mean really well. Go back and look at the Cubs film from last season when he got traded. Shogo Akiyama, all he's done his entire career is get on base at a very high percentage and play enormously good defense. It reminds me a lot of Billy Hamilton with a better swing. Aristides Aquino, who came up last season and damn near won Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for Pete Alonso going off the entire season. To finish top 5 in Rookie of the Year and only play a quarter of the season, you did something right. You did something right. Let's move to their infield. Eugenio Suarez had the 4th most home runs in the entire major leagues last year. You got to think he's only going to be better. Only going to be more refined. Move to their shortstop position. They have so many options. Nick Senzel, Jose Garcia, Freddie Galvis, all with positive WARs. Wins above replacements in their respective leagues. Second base, Mike Moustakas. An absolute thumper in the middle of the lineup. First base, a former MVP that with motivation and with right technique could be brought back. He's still not all that old. He's 34, I believe. Joey Votto, there's plenty of 36, 37-year-olds. Edwin Encarnacion is 38, went out and hit 40 home runs last season. So there's no doubt in my mind Joey Votto could still do high baseball IQ things for this Reds team. And act like the Howie Kendrick of this team. Remember Howie Kendrick, old and washed up, everyone said. The World Series last year and the playoffs in general absolutely went off. Veterans can tap into their exciting side anytime they want to for one last run. There's no doubt in my mind Joey Votto can do it too. Their backstop, a Golden Glove winner, not going to go out there and hit a ton of home runs or a ton of on-base stuff, but he's going to earn you runs by saving runs on the defensive side. Their starting pitcher rotation, as lethal as anyone's seen in a long time. A lot of people like to talk about the Nationals. I'm telling you, the Reds rotation is even scarier, with Trevor Bauer being their second pitcher, Sonny Gray being their third pitcher. Both were in the Cy Young talk at one point last season. And Luis Castillo, who damn near won the Cy Young if it wasn't for a little bit of a mild stretch throughout the middle of the season. So their rotation when it comes to playoff time is all-star caliber. And their bullpen, Michael Lorenzen, one of the best stretch relievers last 3 seasons. Raisel Iglesias 2 seasons ago was the number one, was like the top 3 closer. There's no real holes in that team at all. There's none. So to me, we're looking at a Reds versus Yankees World Series. if everyone can stay healthy, if the team wins the games that they lost last year. So that's it from me. We'll see you guys here in a couple of days on Friday. See you soon.